Write your own path with opportunities.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I've got a special treat for you today because I have the elusive Joe Mynhardt from Crystal Lake Publishing in the studio today, and he's going to be talking about all his secrets. But for now, I'm going to have him introduce himself and tell us the one thing that he wishes every author knew.
That's a big one. Oh, thanks, first of all, Angela, for having me. It's an honor to be here. I know I've been avoiding this stuff for a few years now, but it's time that I start attending more of these chats and just getting out there. Something that every author knew. It doesn't take one book. It doesn't take one successful book. It takes a whole bunch. It doesn't take one bad book to destroy your career either. It is one building block at a time, one connection, one friend made along the way, one other author supported, and it just keeps building and building and building, and it can take 10 to 20 years. I've always believed that it takes 20 years to be the best at anything in life. So it's the long haul. Nothing comes easy, and be prepared to put at least 20 years into it. That's it.
Oh, thank you. So basically, you're saying longevity is a key. Be patient with yourself and don't look at this book didn't make the New York Times bestseller list, so I just quit.
Just commitment to what you believe is going to be possible. I've seen authors that even their first book won an award, like best new novel, stuff like that, but the readership was really low. So like, okay, so I can write well, but there aren't enough readers. So I'm not writing popular fiction or something, but they, instead of giving up, they kept going. And I've seen a lot of authors get right to the point of giving up. And then luckily me or someone else was able to convince them to keep going. And so that's one of the big things that I want to do for authors, is just keep them motivated, because that's a big issue. Just that lack of confidence, gain more experience, the easy stuff to help with. I mean, editors and other authors can help with the writing stuff, but there's so many other aspects of being an author that's not covered in books most of the time. So we try and help where we can. I know you're doing the same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the thing with all of us, especially, and I feel like the horror community is where, all ships rise with the tide. We're all constantly helping others and getting help. So I don't think I could have done this by myself. Obviously, I couldn't have done it by myself. It does take a team. So I appreciate what Crystal Lake does. And that's my next question. That's a perfect segue into it, is where did Crystal Lake come from? You guys have been going a while now. You have a great reputation. And you're starting to be a little bit massive, I'm going to say.
It is growing quite a lot. And every year I think, okay, if I can just get over the next year, everything is going to be perfect in place. And then we can just look at making everything run a bit smoother. And I still do that. But every time a gap opens up, I just fill it with something new. And there's always new ideas and projects. And because I want to be at like the forefront of what's new, what's going to change, how are we going to present stories, just anything, not really technology, because, well, maybe later on we'll have apps and stuff, but a lot of my time is spent workshops and research and what's new with technology and where readers find their books and marketing tactics and all that stuff. And I have to test everything, I have to learn everything, and it's a bit boring sometimes, but most of the time I learn a little bit and I apply it to like my own experience, and a new idea might actually be born from it. And then I say, okay, let's try this. So that's actually very cool. But Crystal Lake, let's see, started back in 2012. I started writing in 2008, but just flash fiction, just because I wanted some sort of outlet. And I've always had this desire to create something out of nothing. So just putting words together and building a story was amazing. And I was mostly a fan of comic books and horror movies. When I was small, I used to sneak out of bed and watch late night, Night on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. I was caught a bunch of times, but I managed to watch a lot of movies. And I read first of all, English is my second language. So when I picked up an English book, which belonged to my sister, was like a high school reading book or something, my parents almost had a heart attack when they saw how easily I read English out loud. And so the first book I actually read was Dracula. And I believe then it was It by Stephen King. And then I moved on to a whole bunch of other books. So my sister and I, we've got the same taste in books. So I just read her books every time. And so started writing, and eventually, well, I had a day job that I didn't like at all. And I started looking at what skills and talents do I have that I can make money from, and said, well, I had wrist issues back then. And so I knew I'm not going to be able to write at the fast pace of publishing a book a year and all that stuff. So I just decided, let's just stick to short stories. And I compiled a short story collection for myself. And I enjoyed the publishing side of it so much, working with other authors for like blurbs, working with the artist and the editor. And I really enjoyed it. And I've always had this business mind that I could always work with the artistic side. So it's actually this amazing combination that I can do creative problem solving in business, which I got from my dad. I think the business side and the art side from my mom. I don't know. And it worked out quite well. So I immediately, and I had to register a company name with America because I'm in South Africa. So just so that Amazon doesn't take an extra 30%, I needed to register a tax compliance thing, and they wanted a name. So Crystal Lake Publishing was the name that came to mind because it's got the horror reference, it connects with my childhood, and it's professional enough that you can publish other genres without it sounding like this is a bloody gory mess of a horror publisher. So it can expand, which is exactly what's happening now. And so that was Crystal Lake Publishing. And then we did our first anthology. So my book was basically a test run. And then the first anthology was a test run. Then we started doing collections from the authors in the book. And I think it was about 3 or 4 years before we did our first novel, because I didn't want to basically cheat an author out of the best they could get from a publisher. So I wanted to make sure we could really represent a novel first. And I think what first put us on the map was our nonfiction books, where we started working with some bigger authors, and they invited their friends, and we started showing that we really care about authors and we're there to help. And everything just grew from there at an incredible speed. So can't complain.
That's fantastic. And speaking of some of the things that you do for other authors, because I know I just attended one of your masterminds, and I heard some of the fabulous, amazing, expansive things that you guys do for your authors. What are some of the best practices that you would like authors to know? Like, do these 5 things, and you're going to be ahead of the game.
The unfortunate thing is it takes a lot of stuff. But the fortunate thing is you can decide what you want to do and really focus on the quality of those 5 things. So rather do 5 things well than 30 things touch and go every day. So I tell authors that, yes, stick with what you're comfortable with, but do at least one thing where you're pushing the boundaries a little bit. I had to do the same. That's why I'm doing interviews and stuff now, because I used to have crippling like stage fright and stuff. I think it also had to do with the fact that I'm not like English first language, but when I'm writing stuff, you would never know it. The words just come naturally. but when I have to speak, like I forget words a lot. I forget names. I'm really bad with names, so I can't like name drop the whole time, which is probably a good thing. And so listen, I even forgot what I'm busy talking about. What was the question again? Sorry.
Oh, no, that's absolutely fine. I do find it funny that you're pushing your own discomfort level right
Oh yes,
now.
yes.
That's actually why I started doing these interviews and these shows, because I had so much stage fright. I said I'm going to do one of these shows for once a week for 52 weeks, 1 year, and then I'll get over it. And I did. And now I realize I love it. So I was
I
going to
did.
say, where's the Crystal Lake show? It's coming, everybody. It's
I
going to
did
happen.
64 one-on-one Zoom chats in March of this year with authors about like story coaching, talking through their ideas and building the plot and the characterization and talking about the theme and everything. And that really helped a lot. So if you say throw yourself into the deep end, 2 or 3 a year is not going to do it. 64 in a month really gets the job done. And from that, a lot of business has also come, and I've helped a lot of people, and I've developed like my own books and workshops, and now they're attending the workshops, and it's building. So and it's a nice way to make extra money for the ad budgets for our books. I don't keep the money for myself. Everything is for the company. I just take what I need to survive, and the rest goes back. Because I'm at the point where I don't need to anymore to live on. I don't need fancy cars and all that stuff. So I want to put back into the world and work with authors and see how many amazing stories and books we can get out there, and board games and comic books and everything else. Who knows what's next? I know what's next, but I can't share everything.
That's fantastic. And as a publisher myself, I think I'm kind of trying to battle this misconception that there's just loads of money coming in from publishing. It's about the same as being an author, except that we're usually paying it. I know one of the things that I like to share with people is at times I would get paid $50 for a poem, and then I am now paying 10 poets with my $50 royalty, and that's pretty much how it is. So one of the questions I'm asking everybody is, how can authors support small press? Because it's not one way, it's a give and take. Like, we're supporting authors, and as an author, I want to support the people that are publishing me, and keeping these places going, keeping small press going. So what are some of the ways that small press can help? I'm sorry, authors can give back and help small press, would you say?
Well, I wouldn't suggest buying a book that you don't want to read, because if you look at the way Amazon chooses who to show the books to, it needs to be an actual fan of that type of book. Otherwise, you're going to start confusing Amazon about what type of reader wants this book. So buying your friend's book and never reading it is actually probably going to harm them in the long run. Just give them the money and ask them to mail you the book or email you the PDF or something. Don't buy it on Amazon. For Amazon, if you do buy a book because you want to read it, definitely leave a review on Amazon and Goodreads. And there's even a bunch of Facebook pages where authors can't self-promote, but you can put reviews. You can talk about books. You can ask other readers questions about, like, I read this book. What's your take on the ending? These characters, get a conversation going. That is the best thing a reader can do for any book that they've enjoyed.
Awesome. I think that is, I didn't know that about Amazon, so that's really, really good advice, because
They
that's the first thing they always say.
That's the most, well, they tend to change what is the most important at a certain given time. At the moment, it's the relativity score or something, like the keywords, the categories, the metadata, everything needs to be spot on. So if there's a bit of romance in your book, don't even say this is a romance book. Just because there's a subplot of romance, you're going to target the wrong people, and you're going to get bad reviews, and Amazon's going to put your book next to other romance books, it's not going to get any clicks. And then they are going to start confusing it and putting it in the wrong categories. And so don't go down that rabbit hole.
No, that's actually fantastic advice, because I think back in the day, it was kind of people tended to not mislead with their keywords, but really try to stretch those keywords. And it's changed. Now it's better to hone in and be very specific.
The tactic was as many keywords and categories, and that's why they moved it from 10 categories down to 3 as well. And then they'll choose the rest. So you need to make sure you put the exact right information there, which I mentioned in one of the mastermind meetings is there are certain phrases that connects to certain genres or subgenres. So if your description says something like, let's see, something that makes you think of a thriller or suspense, in the nick of time, that's mostly thriller or like political suspense drama type stuff. So if you add that in a horror book, you're probably your book's going to show up to the wrong readers, or something like that makes you think of a love story, but you think it's working in your description. I know there was one of someone that used the word zombie in a romance description, but as like a joke reference to something like, oh, there's nothing worse than a zombie, but there are no zombies in the book. And that book was categorized as horror. And to get your book away from that category is not easy. Takes a while.
Wow, that's funny. And I can completely see that happening. Don't have a zombie boyfriend, and now you're in horror. And you definitely did not mean that. Well, that is fantastic. I really love that advice. I'm going to be thinking on that a lot. What is
book descriptions?
Yeah. Now I'm thinking on my own, like, what have I said?
So, and that's the thing with being a publisher. Every time we learn something new or things change, or we try tactic and it works, we basically need to go back to all our previous books and update them. So at least once a year we go through, and we've already published over 200 books. We'll rework the descriptions, the keywords, the categories. We've had cover changes, anything that can revive a book or just get it better suited for conversion. So even if you do have an ad, something on that page is preventing people from buying, and we need to figure out what.
That's fantastic. Well, you alluded to some things that are coming up that you can't talk about. Are there any things coming up that you can talk about that we can start watching for?
I'll mention the ones most people know, and then I'll give like a hint of the rest. Okay, let's see. We're now in August. So end of this month is our magazine launch, Memento Mori Inc. The pre-order for it's going to be a paperback, normal magazine, and digital. Both pre-orders should be up soon. Our board game Kickstarter fundraiser, whatever, it will most likely be up September to October. We're not exactly sure on the date yet. There's still a bit of market research we want to do and to see what the interest is at the moment. So that might be this year. Let's see, a whole bunch of books. It's about a book every Friday for the rest of the year up till December 13th. There's an anthology that I'm still editing that I'm finishing up this week, which will be, I believe, I could be wrong, the most mixed bag you're ever going to get. It starts out with a comic book sequence, like introduction. Then it's flash fiction, poetry, short stories, a novella, a play, an actual page where it's just the title and a QR code where you will go to a reading of a story by the author. So a dramatic reading, not just a normal reading. He's going to really act it out. What else is in there? And then it ends again with a comic book section. And I'm even trying to figure out a way for the author bios to be completely different than we've ever seen in an anthology. I still need to figure out how exactly, but I want to promote the authors more than just there's a little paragraph. I mean, or just links to website. There has to be a different, better way, and I'm going to try and figure it out. Then our Joe Ledger comic book Kickstarter was a success, or backer kit. So we're working on that now. I saw the first 6 or 7 pages this week. That should be out, I think, March, there about next year. And then we can move on to the next one, but I can't say for certain. There will be an announcement probably in the next few weeks to a month what that's going to be. It's already in production, just keeping it quiet for now. And then the biggest one that I can't say too much yet, and I'm going to be heavily involved, and it's probably the biggest thing we've undertaken so far. I wanted to get into animation, but it's way too expensive. But we do have a plan for 2 YouTube channels. Now, when I'm saying TV, like YouTube shows that are we're gonna have actors, we're gonna have music, we're gonna have horror authors, we're gonna have writers working on the show, musicians, and we're gonna use that to promote books, promote authors. But it's 2 channels. One is gonna be for kids and one for adults, and very entertaining, very funny, but I can't say more than that. Professional film studio, so it's going to be high quality, everything, and I'm super excited about it. But yes, I'll share more when I can. I don't want to give away our idea and start rushing to get it finished first. So, because this has not been done in our genre and books mostly.
That is awesome. Well, I am also very excited and looking forward to this because that sounds great. Where can we keep in touch with you and Crystal Lake to find all this out? Like, where should we be watching?
Well, most of the stuff we do will be on the website, crystlakepub.com. Our newsletter should be on there. Well, it is on there. Just to subscribe there. And in the newsletter, you'll go through a sequence where we'll give a lot of information of what you might be looking for. So if you're explicitly a reader, you're probably just going to stay there. But there is a different newsletter for what we call shadow readers. So it's not just Crystal Lake books. We've advertised your books on there. We have friends and colleagues and other publishers just basically spreading the word, 99-cent books, new releases, freebies, stuff like that. Our students as well. And then there's one for mostly authors. So the shadow authors or shadow writers mailing list, our Patreon tiers that are suited specifically for readers, specifically for authors, what they get. And then we've got the Heartbeat as well, which is a community for horror authors, but you can't even Google that. You need a special invite link, which will be on the newsletter. So this is one newsletter that I really recommend read through it, because I know how we are. We open it up, we scan through it quickly, but I put little bits in there specifically for the people, to reward those people who actually read word for word. And on the Heartbeat community is also where we're going to have all our workshops for authors. That's where my mastermind group is. We invite special guests, and pretty soon we're going to start doing, like on weekends, just quick Zoom meetings where everyone chats about what they write, what they're busy with, basically just keeping everyone motivated and working and checking in on deadlines. Because I know deadlines work better when you've got other authors chasing you, reminding you, competing in a friendly way with you. It really works for most authors because this is a lonely job. We need some company. So yeah, I think that should cover most of it. And of course, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, Blue Sky. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Who knows what's next, but we'll probably be there.
Awesome.
And YouTube,
Awesome.
definitely coming
Yeah,
soon.
definitely YouTube. Well,
Yes,
that's
the
awesome.
kids one, I'm looking at a November launch, and as soon as that's up and going, the adult one should be about April to middle of next year. So, can't wait to share
Okay.
that.
Yeah, well, we can't wait to see it.
What I can add is, if you're a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, the more the character Edgar Allan Poe than like the actual written word, you're gonna love it. The kids version and the adult one will have Edgar Allan Poe in it. So
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say who doesn't like Edgar Allan Poe, but that could be just me, but that is definitely my perspective. And
well, my main reason for choosing Edgar Allan Poe, well, there's a bunch of reasons I chose him personally, but it is one of the most searched names on Amazon, and all his books collections are always on the top seller lists. And every now and then you're going to see some of his poems resurface viral online, stuff like that. Especially after you get these shows like, what was that one last year? The Fall of the House of Usher. And people realized all the poems in the story were Edgar's poems. So everyone's Googling it, everyone's reading whatever they can find. So I'm just going to make sure you can find him on YouTube as well. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all that great information. I'm going to say I learned a lot, which is fantastic because I'm with
That's
you. I'm
fine.
always in workshops and trying to learn new things because it's when you think you know it all, this whole industry changes. So you got to start over.
Being an author or publisher, you have to stay ahead of it. So I'm all for self-publishing authors. I even help some of them. But you really need to put in the time, not just to write, to run a full-time business, to market yourself, to brand yourself. And it can be a nightmare. And so for some authors, we handle that side. We let them write. We take away all the headaches. We contact Amazon. We fight with Amazon, all the printers. And there's a lot of fights with Amazon, the printers, a lot. We just don't publicly announce it because we don't want to get Amazon angry for tagging them in negative posts the whole time. So better
Yeah,
not.
nobody wins for that. That is definitely something to keep private. Well, thank you for being here. Everybody, if you go look in the links below, that's where all these links to the newsletter and Memento Mori coming out. Congratulations on that. All
Thanks.
of that will be in the description, so you guys can go follow Crystal Lake Publishing and Joe Mynhardt and keep your eyes on this because it sounds like a whole lot of really cool stuff is just ahead.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Anyway, bye, and I will see you guys next week.
Grab some paper, grab your pen, open opportunities, and you can begin. When you exercise your rights and get published, you may change. Write your own path, both wonderful and strange, with opportunities. With opportunities. With opportunities, write your own path, both wonderful and strange. With opportunities, with opportunities.